Hello everyone, how's it going? Sawyer here. And as of right now, time of recording this video, it is about 6:30 p.m. Christmas Day, 25th. So I just wanted to, first and foremost, wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas. Hope it was a good one. Hope you got some cool presents or spent family time and all that stuff. And yeah, it's been really nice being part of this community. I've been on YouTube for years. I've been a creator for years, but yes, I've just recently started to kind of funnel it into my passion of comic books, and this is just a really nice little subculture of people on YouTube. It really small community. And it's a small community, but it's a very loving, supportive community, and it's awesome. I mean, like, I've had videos on my page for like forever. They don't get any comments, any likes or anything. Just about every time I put out a video, I mean, somebody is commenting on it, saying what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. It's getting likes. There's always conversation starting. It's really nice. It's really nice change of pace from what I'm used to on YouTube. But with that being said, let's just get into some comics, guys. That's what you guys want to see. And let's get into it. Let's see. This is a cool little G.I. Joe book, G.I. Joe Origins, number 20. I just like the cover. I like the idea that Cobra Commander is just, sitting here taking a picture of all these, refugee kids or whatever, or kids that are in need. It kind of looks like one of those. It basically looks like one of those commercials that you always see, like where you can donate like a quarter a day or something like that for people in third world countries. But it looks like Cobra Commander is the one doing the commercial instead of the old white guy that they always get in the old commercials. So I just thought it was a funny cover. I thought it was a very interesting cover. Almost looks kind of, you can tell it's supposed to be like a pomegranate cover, but I find it interesting. Then we have this very cool Star Wars cover from Star Wars Purge the Tyrant's Fist. And it's a really cool cover, really cool red background, Darth Vader fighting some other blue dude, and they're like just going at it, I just really like that cover. I think it's really cool. I got that for like 25 cents the other day at my shop. So my shop has a pretty big 25 cents pile. It doesn't really get new stuff in it too much, but I've slowly been picking out stuff. Like every time I go, usually what I do is I go in there and I buy, maybe $10, $20 worth of actual, like worth of $1 or $3 books, whatever. I usually buy like $20 worth of just normal books, but then I usually go in the 10 cent and 25 cents pile and just kind of. I usually grab maybe $5 worth of books from there, like I'll grab a handful of books just to kind of like. It just depends. It's usually I'll grab stuff in the 25 cents pile if I kind of hit my budget and I didn't get a lot of books. Like sometimes I'll go in there, I'll just buy one or two keys or one or two $15, $20 books or something like that. Well, that's pretty much my budget for the trip. So. And I always feel like, man, I want more books. Like I'm very much I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. Sorry, man. Okay. I am very much a quantity over quantity guy. So, I feel weird if I don't leave the store with with at least a little stack of books. So, if I do that, like if I just buy one or two books. I'll usually go in 25 cents pile and get like 15 books or whatever, just so that way I feel like I actually have a volume without having to bust my wallet for it. And usually all the 25 cents books are just books I usually just put in my little shop. When I go on the weekends, to sell at the flea markets and stuff. That's usually what I usually do with the 25 cents books. So, anyway. Enough about my madness. Next up we have the Hawk. Mayan Rule Part 2, number 54. Really cool cover. Another just awesome art. Cover with Red Hawk. Yeah, it's a really cool cover. A lot of these 25 cents books I literally pick up for the cover art. It's just cool. They're cool to me. It's like the works of art. And then we have this Kiss book. Kiss World Without Heroes Part 1, kind of a funny tagline for a Kiss book. I love these Kiss books that DIW puts out. They just have some really crazy over the top like covers, and and just the premise that Kiss is like this, or like these fantasy heroes. It's just funny. uh, then we have this really cool G.I. Joe issue that's got like this. I don't know if it's a variant cover or it's just like a normal cover, but it's really cool. It's just this really cool concept cover, like where it looks like an old toy from the original '80s G.I. Joe line. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think I've seen other covers like this for different things. Like I've seen covers like this for different books where it's like a toy cover. Like I think I saw a Power Rangers cover like this one time on somebody's video where it was like an old '90s Power Ranger toy was the cover. So I don't know if they started doing this in G.I. Joe or if it's been a thing for like a while. But it's cool. It's a cool concept. Next up, we have Dick Tracy, the original Dick Tracy by Chester Gold. This is number 3. I believe it's just some reprints of old Dick Tracy stories. So, interesting thing about Dick Tracy is Dick Tracy is basically, well, Dick Tracy is one of the inspirations for Batman. Because Batman is basically, the original Batman concept is basically like 3 or 4 different characters that were like literary characters that came before Batman, and it was basically like different aspects of each character were kind of taken and thrown into the mix to create Batman. Like for example, you have aspects of the Shadow were taken to make Batman. You know, like that. You had for example, you had the Shadow, who was basically like this shadowy figure that crept through the dark, and he basically played on fear, and he used fear to basically as a weapon. He was he made the criminals afraid of him. He was very much a street level hero. He wore all black and all that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of the visual appeal of Batman is taken from the Shadow. Also, a lot of visual appeal for the costume is taken from a character called the Bat, which is literally has a costume which is very similar to the original Batman costume, but nothing else, not too much else is similar. And then you have aspects of like the Green Hornet, or in Batman. Or is the Green Hornet? Oh, I'm not sure if the Green Hornet predates Batman anyway. But one of the big ones is Dick Tracy. Like Dick Tracy and the Shadow are probably the 2 big ones that Batman gets inspiration from, because Dick Tracy is a detective, which so is Batman, and Dick Tracy also has a very large ensemble of different villains with different gimmicks, and that's where Batman basically that's the idea. That's actually the idea of a bunch of different heroes. Dick Tracy, I think, as far as I can think, Dick Tracy is like the first kind of fictional character to have a large rogues gallery of different villains that had different gimmicks or different skill sets or different things that made them different. You know what I mean? As a lot of Dick Tracy's villains had different facial things going on, or they had different like they had different MOs, different gimmicks, different things they did. So that's where that kind of comes in. Next up, we have the Magic the Gathering Ice Age, number 1, number 4. Yeah, back in the '90s when Magic was kind of starting to hit pretty big, they used to make these comic books all the time. And this is one of the Magic comics based off the Ice Age set, which is a pretty classic set in terms of in terms of the theme and the history of Magic. The Ice Age block is home to lots of cool cards. Force of Will, Jester's Cap. It's mostly Force of Will though. Force of Will is the big one that people still play with to this day. It's just amazing in legacy format. Just the ability to counter spell the ability to counter any spell by just knocking it out of your hand and removing a blue card is amazing. And I realize that I've gotten on the topic of Magic the Gathering, which is not comic book related, but it is a hobby of mine. It is a passion of mine. It is card games. So I'm sorry that little bit interjected into the comic book video. Sorry. Next up, we have the Avengers, number 198. This is a issue that features Red Ronin, which Red Ronin is kind of like basically a character that was created for the Godzilla comic book, because Marvel had Godzilla comic book around this time, or a little bit earlier than this. And one of the major like antagonists that Godzilla would fight in that comic was Red Ronin. That was basically a giant robot created by I believe it was the Japanese government, because of course Godzilla's always in Japan. But yeah, it's this giant robot created by the Japanese government that was manned by, I think it was manned by a person or something, to fight Godzilla. So yeah, it's very classic Power Rangers or Pacific Rim type shit. But this actually predates both of those. So then we have this really cheesy Marvel Mangas thing that looks like it's for little kids. I don't even know why I have this. I think it might have been, I might have got it out of a lot or something. But yeah, it's just it's like a little reimagining of the Marvel Universe's manga characters. I really don't like the art because I don't really like manga art. I don't really like Japanese-inspired anime art and all that. But yeah, I'm very much a Western guy. Even Captain Marvel looks so silly on the cover. But that's that. Then we have The Web, number 3. I think I've talked about The Web before, but The Web is basically a series from Impact Comics that was a imprint of DC Comics, where DC was using some little-known characters and properties that they had acquired like years before from purchasing a rival company. And The Web is basically a series about, well, the original Web is actually a really cool character that they decided to not really incorporate that much into the new version. But the original Web is basically a psychologist, He's a psychologist that basically starts like studying people and whatever, and he realizes there's so much, he's realized there's so much horribleness in people and so much horribleness in the world. So he ends up kind of making a costume and taking up arms against people. And it's just a weird idea. Like I appreciate the idea of a psychologist being a superhero. It just seems weird to me. Like like the only other psychologists I can think of they're like in mainstream comics are usually villains. Like usually psychologists are villains. If you look at characters like, I'm not 100% sure if Hugo Strange is a psychologist, but if you just look at characters like Hugo Strange and Harley Quinn, they have a background, that type of stuff, and they're also bad guys. So it's just interesting to see a hero, like an actual hero that has that kind of background. So, but the new Web, this version of Web is actually totally different. It's like a kind of a reimagining where they're basically like a group of people, not one person, and they're basically a organization that's like kind of like the shield of that universe. They're like a government issue organization that fights the more extreme threats. And you say and I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the original Web might be a part of the team or something. He might be a founder or something like that. I'm not sure. Then the last book we have for today's episode or issue is Mr. T #1. Fun for all ages up there. First awesome issue. I like that tagline. Pretty cool cover. This is whatever company this is probably isn't in business anymore. I've never heard of them. And yeah, it's just a cheesy kind of gimmicky idea for a story. Yeah. I mean, who didn't grow up in the 80s and not love Mr. T? I don't know anybody that could say that, But yeah, that's my video for today, guys. And as always, see you guys later.